Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. In a quiet residential neighborhood, where each morning seemed identical to the last, an elderly black woman, Miss Agnes, had lived alone for decades, surrounded by memories and faded photographs. Her life was simple, discreet, but imbued with dignity and wisdom. That day, FBI agent Emily Cartwright, known for her prejudice and arrogance, entered the neighborhood under the guise of a routine investigation. Her cold, calculating eyes fell upon Agnes, and without warning, a brutal gesture shattered the silence of the street. She murdered the old woman, believing that no one would ever know. But what the agent didn't know was that Miss Agnes wasn't just a retiree. She was the matriarch of an influential and respected family, whose members held positions of power in the justice system, the military, and the federal forces. And among them, her grandson, Marcus, an FBI special agent, had just been assigned to a mission in the same city. When the truth came out, the entire city was shocked. Witnesses, appalled by Cartwright's violence and audacity, began to speak out, and the investigation uncovered a web of secrets no one could have imagined. The murder, far from going unpunished, would unleash a methodical and relentless vendetta, where every piece of the puzzle would demonstrate that justice could strike with unexpected force. The shocking twist? Emily Cartwright, who thought she had manipulated the situation with impunity, was about to discover that the victim had foreseen every eventuality, evidence subtly left behind, silent witnesses, and a legacy of power that would transform oppression in return. The neighborhood seemed asleep, bathed in the orange light of morning. Mademoiselle Agnes went out as usual to water her plants, her wrinkled face lit by a quiet smile. The neighborhood children greeted her, and some even left little drawings on her mailbox. Her life was simple, peaceful, but this tranquility was about to be shattered. In the distance, a black car pulled up in front of her house. Emily Cartwright got out with the cold self-assurance of those who believe themselves untouchable. The FBI agent had never valued discretion or dignity. All she saw was the color of the old woman's skin and the imagined power she believed she must wield. "Good morning, madam," said Cartwright politely but coldly. "I must." "I don't know you," replied Agnes, her voice trembling but firm. Emily Cartwright didn't listen. With a sudden movement, she shoved the old woman against the wall, and in a moment of irrational violence, the attack was fatal. Agnes collapsed, and the silence of the neighborhood was broken by the sharp thud of the fall and the shock of passers-by who sprang onto the porch. But on the street, no one understood the magnitude of this gesture. Cartwright thought the situation would remain discreet, that no consequences would haunt her. She didn't know that Marcus, Agnes's grandson and an FBI special agent, had just been assigned to a mission in this city. Marcus entered the neighborhood a few hours later, still unaware of what had happened. He saw the black car parked in front of his grandmother's house. His instincts immediately put him on alert. When he entered the house, the sight was unbearable: overturned flowers, damaged drawings, and Agnes, motionless, her hands clutching her sweater. Rage and shock mingled. But Marcus wasn't just a man of anger, he was methodical, disciplined. In the minutes that followed, he examined the scene, noting every detail and spotting what, to the untrained eye, seemed insignificant. Fingerprints left on the doorknob, a slight rustle of fabric on the floor, and above all, an open notebook on the table, where Agnes had left cryptic notes for her family. Convinced of her superiority, Emily Cartwright thought she had everything under control. But she didn't know that Agnes had anticipated every eventuality. Every gesture, every word she left behind was a trap, a thread Marcus would pull until the truth came out and justice was served. The reversal was already underway. And no one, not even the arrogant agent, yet suspected the shockwave that was about to hit her. Marcus cautiously entered his grandmother's house, observing every detail. His heart was racing, but his mind was clear. Every gesture Agnes made, even after her death, gave him clues. It wasn't just murder, it was a message, a challenge the matriarch had left for her family: never let injustice stand. He picked up the notebook lying open on the table. Coded notes, names and addresses, phone numbers, and meticulous observations about certain residents and influential figures in the city. Marcus understood immediately. His grandmother had devised a plan to protect her family and expose those who abused their power. A few hours later, at FBI headquarters, Marcus requested an emergency meeting with his superiors. His voice was calm but sharp. An FBI agent, Emily Cartwright, has committed homicide. The victim is my grandmother, Miss Agnes. I have proof, and I will make sure that justice is served. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The accusation was serious, and Marcus's name added considerable weight. His reputation as an impeccable special agent tipped the scales. Superiors had no choice, the investigation had to be transparent and swift. Meanwhile, Cartwright, convinced she would get away with it, continued her arrogant routine, unaware that every move Marcus made brought the truth closer to her. He began gathering evidence, neighborhood surveillance videos, statements from neighbors and city employees, as well as documents left behind by Agnes herself. Everything was meticulously organized to create an irrefutable case. But Marcus wasn't satisfied with physical evidence alone. He knew his best weapon was his family's reputation and network. Within hours, he contacted several influential members, judges, lawyers, and high-ranking officers. All were shocked by the scale of the crime, and each pledged to support Marcus in his quest for justice. The crucial turning point came when Marcus discovered a series of letters Agnes had written to her family, in which she had anticipated the racist violence and planned a path for the truth to come to light. Emily Cartwright had believed her brutality would go unnoticed, but she didn't know that Agnes had always been several steps ahead of her. As night fell on the city, Marcus stood in front of his grandmother's house, staring at the notebook in his hands. Revenge lay not in violence, but in the methodical unveiling of the truth. And tomorrow, the entire neighborhood, and perhaps the entire country, would discover that even the powerful couldn't protect those who believed themselves untouchable. Emily Cartwright woke up the next day with the strange feeling that something was slipping out of her control. She had always believed that her position at the FBI placed her above all consequences. Yet, the first bits of news filtering into her office were shaking that certainty. Anonymous calls, nosy colleagues, and above all, the presence of Marcus, whose reputation as an honest and formidable agent was beginning to weigh heavily on her. Marcus, for his part, proceeded methodically. He had gathered all the evidence, videos, neighbor testimonies, medical reports, and, above all, the letters left by his grandmother. Each of these documents was a piece of a puzzle designed to reveal the truth and show that the racist officer had committed a premeditated and brutal crime. He convened a private meeting with his FBI allies and several influential legal figures. His voice was firm but calm. Emily Cartwright thought she could erase her tracks and carry on as if nothing had happened. She was wrong. Every action, every word she wrote will be exposed. The truth has never been closer. Meanwhile, Cartwright felt the noose tightening. The FBI superiors questioned her cautiously but firmly, and she felt every gesture, every word from Marcus bringing her closer to a humiliation she had never imagined. She tried to maintain her arrogance, but her eyes now betrayed fear and uncertainty. Marcus wasn't just gathering evidence, he was orchestrating its public revelation. A press conference was planned, where all the evidence would be laid bare. The media, alerted by superiors and witnesses, would prepare to cover an unprecedented scandal. And at the center of it all, Cartwright could only watch helplessly as her reputation and career crumbled. The moment of reckoning was approaching. Marcus placed his grandmother's notebook on the table, leafing through it one last time. Every word, every observation, every prediction by Agnes would serve to expose the truth, that justice can catch up with even the most arrogant, that power never protects those who abuse it. When the press conference began, Emily Cartwright would discover that true strength lay not in violence or fear, but in the patience, planning, and dignity of those who never allow themselves to be crushed. Old Agnes, even in death, would strike harder than anyone could have imagined. The FBI conference room was packed with journalists, high-ranking officials, and a few civilians invited to testify. The tension was palpable. Emily Cartwright entered, her face frozen in a mask of confidence that no longer fooled anyone. Each step echoed her past arrogance. Marcus stepped onto the platform, his grandmother's notebook in hand. He took a deep breath, then began to speak. Today, we are gathered to pay tribute to Miss Agnes. A woman who, in her quiet life, left a legacy of dignity and courage. But she was the victim of an abominable act, perpetrated by an FBI agent, Emily Cartwright. The cameras focused on Cartwright. Her face paled slightly, but she tried to maintain her composure. We have irrefutable evidence, Marcus continued. Videos, witness statements, and even documents left by the victim herself. All of it demonstrates that Officer Cartwright acted with premeditation and brutality, believing that her position would protect her. The screens behind Marcus showed the surveillance videos, the violent gesture, the cold stare, and Agnes's fatal fall. Neighbors and passers-by were interviewed, their voices trembling but resolute, each confirmed the horror of the act. Emily Cartwright tried to speak, to justify herself, but the entire room cut her off with a heavy silence. Even her superiors, shocked by the extent of the evidence, now looked at her with suspicion and disapproval. Marcus opened his grandmother's notebook and read a few passages, words anticipating the injustice and planning the revelation of the truth. If anything happens to me, let my family know. Never let fear silence you. Justice must prevail, even against those who believe themselves to be untouchable. At that precise moment, the reversal occurred. Cartwright, who thought she was manipulating the situation, realized she was now at the mercy of the truth and the power of Agnes's family. Her once arrogant face crumbled before the cameras, as Marcus concluded. Justice is not measured by rank or uniform color. It is measured by truth. And today, truth has triumphed. The shock was immediate and all-encompassing. Journalists broadcast every moment on national television. Emily Cartwright's reputation was destroyed, her career ruined, and her professional life would never be the same. As for Marcus, he had done justice to his grandmother, demonstrating that even the coldest violence can be confronted with patience, strategy, and dignity. And in that room, filled with respectful silence, a lesson became clear to everyone: no arrogance or power can escape the truth. A few weeks after the public revelation, the city seemed to breathe a new air. The Emily Cartwright case had shaken the FBI and public opinion, but it had also left a profound lesson: courage, dignity, and planning can triumph over brutality and arrogance. Marcus often returned to his grandmother's house. Every watered flower, every photograph on the walls, every found notebook testified to Agnes's wisdom and strength. She was no longer there, but her legacy lived on through him and the many people she had inspired. Agnes's family, gathered around Marcus, found an even stronger bond in this tragedy. Influential members of the judiciary, the military, and the federal forces vowed to continue defending truth and justice, honoring the memory of their matriarch. As for Emily Cartwright, her name disappeared from prestigious records and influential networks. Her arrogance and brutality now served as a public example of what happens to those who abuse their power. In the streets of the neighborhood, the children who used to greet Agnes continued to do so, as if the old woman's memory still guided their steps. And Marcus, every morning, while watering the plants at the family home, felt his grandmother's silent presence, like a protective and inspiring breath. The world had seen the truth triumph. And Agnes's lesson remained: justice, patience, and courage are the most powerful weapons against injustice, even when facing those who believe themselves to be untouchable. The city had changed. The family had found peace. And in Marcus's heart burned a conviction: as long as there were those willing to stand up for the truth, the power of justice would never weaken.